You said something earlier where you said you think it's being done intentionally. What do you mean by that?
I mean that I believe that this narrative about cattle destroying the earth was done very intentionally. I think that you take the militant vegan community. I didn't finish that part. So I told you I respect the vegetarian vegan decision. They get to decide what they eat. I do not respect the militant vegan decision. Militant vegans want to decide what everybody eats, what I eat and you eat and they eat. So the plant-based protein industry that sprang up so quickly and attracted so much money. I know it's not doing well now, but it sprang up quickly. I think that this overwhelmingly accepted narrative that cattle are bad came from the partnership, loose, probably unintended partnership of the militant vegan community and people that stood to make a lot of money on vegetable-based protein. So you got a message, and as you pointed out, the feedlot example makes the message easy. And you got a very loud voice and a high platform to speak from, which is the people who make a lot of money on vegetable-based protein. And the narrative just caught fire. And I think that the carbon may be exactly the same thing. Why aren't we talking about water? Why are we just talking about carbon?
Right. Why aren't we talking about the damage that these monocrop agricultural farms do to the water?
But we're just talking about carbon.
Yeah. And if we all go vegan, you're going to need a lot more of those. You're going to need a lot more of those monocrop agriculture farms in order to sustain all those people. Just like we're talking about sustaining 18 million people with meat, you have a real issue sustaining 18 million people with plant-based protein.
And there's money to be made in the business of technology to take carbon out of the air. There's a lot of money to be made in that business. When we villainize carbon badly enough that we're ready to have the carbon emitters, Delta Airlines and whoever else, pay a lot of money to mitigate their carbon footprint, then who's going to, if technology is sought as the answer, there's a lot of money to be made.
Right.
If it's managing land properly, not so much.
When you said that you think that the food industry, like the plant-based protein industry, is not doing as well now, does that give you any hope that, like, at least people recognizing this is not a choice they want to make, it's not the way they want to eat, when they eat it, it's not satisfying, and then at least in terms of some of these options, it's not healthy? You know, we talked about it yesterday. We brought up the rat protein or the rat studies that were done with Impossible Burger. They were talking about how they found all sorts of issues with rats that ate high levels of that stuff. It's not a natural way to make food. It's not. If you want to eat vegetables, just vegetables, organic vegetables, if that's what, it's probably pretty healthy. But if you want to eat that stuff is not a healthier alternative to ground beef.
It gives me hope for others who want to follow us and start this kind of agriculture.
That there's a window that people recognize.
But the window may be bigger than we thought it was. I never worried too much about plant-based protein because, I raised my voice against them where I thought it was appropriate and accurate. But I've never worried about it a hell of a lot. When I talked to my management team, I said, that's not what we got to be afraid of, because it's just too far a reach for my customers. My customers are people that get it, and they don't want hydroponically grown organic vegetables. They don't want vegetable-based meat. They get it. They understand natural systems and evolution, and I just wasn't worried about losing my customer base to it.
Of course.
I worried about other people having the opportunity to do what I do because of it.
But don't you think that the less demand than they anticipated for that stuff is a good sign?
I do.
I do too.
I do. I do.
And more demand, or at least it's enticing when people find out the food is raised organically and regeneratively, the way yours is. Attracts people to it. I think now more than ever, where people are really conscious about what they put in their body, that's a much more attractive choice.